Prophecies about the end of the world can attract a lot of interest from people, most of whom are deeply concerned about trying to uncover who is controlling the world and how they're going about doing it. There is a never-ending supply of videos about how we're being deceived by big government, big business, and a corrupt media, the ruling elite. They feature everything from government cover-ups of UFOs to flat earth theories, from whether 9/11 was an inside job to who is the Antichrist. However, discussions about these topics almost universally fail to provide the all-important solutions to the most important problems facing the world today. If we leave the real solution out of the picture, we can become derailed and end up supporting a more subtle, widespread conspiracy without even realizing it. In this video, we will expose this greater conspiracy, which nearly everyone is involved in, and we will reveal how to combat it. But first, we will run through 5 key ways in which people support and contribute to the deeper underlying conspiracy. The first way that people support the conspiracy is through distraction. The devil loves to get us searching down rabbit holes in order to lose sight of the bigger picture. The result is that we invest time and energy in a misplaced pursuit rather than zeroing in on the real source of the problem. Sensationalism of any sort is, by its very nature, attractive. So people who are skilled at creating mystery, intrigue, or suspicion use it to sell various products or ideas. But be warned, in trying to get to the bottom of one theory, we can allow the wool to be pulled over our eyes about something far more relevant and important. There are many false flag operations, a preponderance of propaganda and misinformation that eventually becomes debunked or exposed as a hoax should get us to doubt the next bit of sensational truth that comes out. Consider the possibility that while you're investing a lot of time developing new theories, maybe the real truth is being lost or diluted beyond recognition. For example, many people became convinced that the world was going to end on the 1st of January 2000, or that there would be an alien invasion during the 2012 London Olympics, or that Obama was never going to vacate the White House, or more recently, that the rapture was going to happen on the 23rd of September 2017. Of course, at some point, major events will happen. But if we jump on the bandwagon of every announcement that gets made, we're only going to end up losing focus and losing credibility. It is common to hear conspiracy theorists talking about the truth being hidden in plain sight. However, most of these same people fail to recognize the real truth being hidden from the masses. Keep watching to find out what this is. The second way that people perpetuate the conspiracy is through pride. The prophet Daniel was told that even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Daniel's prophecy supports a prediction that the Apostle Paul made about people in the end times being ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Often, when conspiracy theorists discuss their ideas, it can sound like a competition to outdo the next person with some new piece of information that they've just learned. It's not uncommon to be asked something like, "Haven't you heard that the government is poisoning the public through chemtrails, or by putting fluoride in our drinking water?" People like to give the impression that they're experts about what is really going on. Knowledge has indeed been greatly increased in these last days, as more and more information, and a lot of misinformation too, has become available on the internet. There is almost no end to what people can find out or convince themselves that they've dug up through so-called research. However, unless we are willing to be changed by the truth, often in very fundamental ways, any knowledge we obtain is likely to be more of a hindrance than a help in solving the real problems of the world and the real problems in our own lives. All that knowledge can get us so puffed up with pride that it can block out our ability to recognize what is subtly going on behind the scenes of our own rather limited knowledge. In some cases, it may be true that we know more about what is going on than the next person. However, it is easier to accumulate knowledge about the problems in the world than it is to live out the solutions to those problems. Unless we do the latter, our knowledge is pretty much useless, and we're more likely to end up perpetuating the problems while deceiving ourselves that we're a part of the solution. The third way people can support the conspiracy is through fear. Knowledge carries with it great responsibility, and if we don't use it responsibly, we once again become a part of the deeper problem. In the Revelation, John is given a little book to eat, which starts off tasting sweet in his mouth, only to become bitter in his belly. That book is the Revelation itself, but it can also relate to almost any new revelation that we get. There can be an almost insatiable desire to know more truth or to uncover more of the global agenda. It's exciting. But the more we know, the more we need to act on what we know. The less we act, the more fearful we will become. This is the bitter element of truth. All truth carries with it a corresponding responsibility. As the mask of the beast comes off, we're given greater revelation of the evil behind the system. Little by little, the devil himself is going to do this in order to get people to accomplish his purpose through fear. The prophet Isaiah said, "Do not call conspiracy everything this people calls a conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread it." When people focus on all the evils and conspiracies going on in the world, they usually end up actually glorifying the devil. Uncovering evil is useless unless it results in us acknowledging ultimate good. If we are to fear anyone, we should fear God. Fear of God is described as the beginning of wisdom. The more we trust and follow Him, the less fear we will have of anything or anyone else. The fourth way we can support the conspiracy is through hatred. We can become so consumed with pointing fingers at the banking cartels or at secret societies like the Illuminati or the Freemasons. And we can become so obsessed with accusations and dreams of wiping out these tyrants that we never get around to dealing with the tyrants within ourselves. The evil goes much deeper than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, who are just humans controlled by Satan. Our fight is not against people like them, but against demonic spiritual forces like pride, fear and hatred. These real rulers of the darkness in the world have really infected all of us. The people in power may be more responsible and more complicit in the global conspiracy than we are, but this does not stop us from being responsible and complicit too. Throughout history, people who have tried to oust corrupt governments and powers through violence and hatred have rarely ended up offering something better. In many cases, they became as corrupt, or even worse, than the governments which they overthrew. The real revolution is not won by weapons of war, but by allowing the truth to change our hearts. Only through personal change can we demonstrate a more noble way for others to follow. We may well be killed in our attempts, but at least we will have saved our own souls in the process. what may look like failure on an earthly level will be triumph in the spiritual realm. The fifth and final way in which we can allow ourselves to support the global conspiracy is through our greed. This universal problem is the source of the other four ways in which we all contribute to the real conspiracy. It is our individual greed that really creates corporate greed, government corruption, and media distortions of truth. The responsibility extends to all who put their hope in money to find happiness or to solve the world's problems. Corruption at an international level is only a reflection of the corruption that exists in the most mundane activities of those who work for money and those who fuel the lie that we need money to make the world go round. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus painted a picture of the kingdom of heaven versus the systems of man. Birds don't have jobs, and flowers don't make clothes, and yet God cares for them. If we will build God's kingdom, He will care for us, but we have to do it His way. This is the truth that almost no one wants to hear. The greatest conspiracy of all time is a conspiracy against Jesus and what He taught. And the reason for such widespread opposition against Jesus is because He challenged the root of all evil head on. He said, we can't work for God and money at the same time. He asks His followers to sell everything they own and to give the proceeds to the poor. And He said that real treasure can only be found in humble, faithful service to God and others. It is not surprising that Jesus said that anyone who exposes the conspiracy by teaching such truths will be hated by everyone. Those in power will hate us because what we are teaching is truly revolutionary. It destabilizes their power base and their own selfish interests. Atheists will hate us for just mentioning God and Jesus. The majority of churchgoers will hate us for exposing their religious hypocrisy. And most conspiracy theorists and other alternative types will hate us because it exposes their unwillingness to confront the root of all evil in their own lives. At the core, many of them are just like everyone else, even if they are functioning only at a micro level of what is happening in the macro world. In conclusion, we have identified 5 ways in which we can each support the real global conspiracy. Firstly, we do it through allowing ourselves to become distracted from the truth and by focusing on the wrong things. Secondly, we contribute to the real conspiracy through becoming proud about our perceived knowledge while refusing to be transformed by the greater truth which has been left out. Thirdly, we contribute to the real conspiracy through allowing ourselves to be governed by fear by focusing on evil rather than focusing on God's solution. Fourthly, we contribute to the real conspiracy by becoming hateful towards those we perceive as being behind the conspiracy in order to distract attention from our own responsibility. And lastly, we contribute to the real conspiracy through our greed, which leads us to support the money myth, which is the greater conspiracy itself. Until we have recognized the root of all evil and have attacked it in ourselves, we will have no real answers. The global conspiracy is ultimately a conspiracy against Jesus Christ and His teachings. This revelation is not just one more conspiracy theory. Our eternal destiny depends on us acting on what Jesus has told us about creating a new world called the Kingdom of Heaven while there is still time. Please, won't you join us in doing that and thus bring real hope to the world?